How's the kids?
Good, good.
Everybody's good? Nice to see you.
How's Florida?
Oh, it was good. It was good. It was sad at first, but I got used to it. It was good. And I had a lot of Florida, so I'm very happy about that. I'm happy to see everybody today. My name is Jerry Foray, and I serve as a member of the Board of Trustees. Is this on? Everybody can hear me, right? Today's service will be led by Elizabeth Gonzalez, Worship Arts Chairperson. She is joined by Gary Cupper, right?
Yes.
Okay. On the piano, and our religious education teacher, Ashley Davis. If you're new here, welcome. Please know that this is a welcoming congregation, a special community that supports one another on our spiritual journey. We are people worshiping together from many paths who are brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers. We are here to help one another do the difficult work of seeking meaning, acting for justice, living with integrity, and walking with one another in peace and love. We hope that this hour set apart from daily concerns will renew our spirits, strengthen our love for one another, and embolden us to bring reconciliation wherever we find division. It's good to be together.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Gonzalez, and I'm the chair of the Worship Arts Committee here at UUCCN. I want to welcome you all here this morning, and thank you to Jerry for that warm welcome. I just want to give you a programming update. Today we were supposed to have Chef Glennon as a guest speaker, and unfortunately due to a death in his family, he's unable to attend.
Speak, Lord.
Sure. So we're going to be watching a video later, which is from the UUA Side with Love channel about an interview with Deepa Iyer, who is the author of this year's UUA Common Read. Every year the UUA suggests a book for congregations to read together, and we've been reading that at UUCCN for years. And this year the name of the book is called Social Change Now, and that will be our May book club read. So just to kind of wet your whistle a little bit for that, we're going to be watching this video because Shep could not be here with us. For today's chalice lighting, words by Reverend Patriot Thomas. Let us be reminded that the symbol of the flaming chalice was a light against fascism in a dark time in history. Those who have become our ancestors continue to guide us in faith and love as we honor their memory and the activism they shared that enriched our lives and taught us to love boldly. Let us hold on to their memory to guide us as the flame against darkness.
Good morning. My name is Mindy Kranz, and I'm a longtime member of this congregation. I will now read the land acknowledgement that's in your order of service. We are here on the ancestral lands of the Meadow. We are here on Turtle Island to be caretakers, to gather in a good way, to be one with the Earth's children in all of their forms, those of the straight lands, mountains, and valleys, those of the rivers, streams, and oceans, and air under the protection of Father Sky. Let this land acknowledgement guide us in our return to unity. Let us remember that we are relatives to all beings, those who walk on four legs, those who fly close to Creator, those who swim in the ponds and the seas and call upon the earth. Let us honor all of the mammal people, the living green creatures that give us shade and food, the spirit energy in stones, boulders, and earth's crevices, and all of the created world. Let us live in harmony, practice kindness, and share our love for one another. Let love be the foundation for living the values of justice, equity, and interdependence.
Thank you, Mickey. Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening song, number 1, Let Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
Relatively new here, and I'm very happy. So I need to get This is a responsive reading of shared Unitarian Universalist values. Love is at the heart of our values.
Our promise to live our values every day with love at the center of all things.
We will only be made whole when we live as co-inhabitants of the world.
You skipped something.
Oh, sorry. Equity is the value of our inclusive community.
We believe in the inherent worthiness of all.
Interdependence teaches us as we are all connected.
We will only be made whole when we live as co-inhabitants of the world.
Justice is essential for peace and building of the beloved community.
We will work to dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions.
Generosity expresses compassion, gratitude, and hope.
We will offer our faith, ourselves, and our resources.
Pluralism encourages respect for all diverse beliefs.
And allows us to be curious as we learn from one another.
Transformation allows us to adapt to an ever-changing world.
We are evolving and growing, we are never perfect.
It's okay to do this.
That's okay.
It's a tradition at UUCCN every week to light a candle with the intention of world peace. Today we light our peace candle with words by Clark Dewey Wells. To pass the peace. To pass the peace is a revolutionary act. It means to trust the outsider we fear, to wish well those who have hurt us, and to forgive at last ourselves. To offer the blessing to those around you is to love your neighbor and yourself and to be at peace with God. Pax vobiscum. Peace. Peace. UUCCN is a community of people who strive to be welcoming, caring, hospitable, and loving. We know that the spark of our joys can be amplified when we share them with people who are cheering us on, and the weight of the burden of our sorrows can be lightened when shared with those who are committed to our mutual well-being. Now is the time when you may share a joy or a sorrow that is on your heart this morning. If you would like, please raise your hand and I will recognize you. Robin?
My sister was in the hospital this past week, and she's out, but she's still not doing great. So I'm just praying for her.
Vicky?
Okay. I had a wonderful Easter, and I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday. That joy with being with the family, of course, and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I'm just hoping that our country's going to come together soon. That was one of my concerns. But
Stephanie?
There are a lot of people who've been asking about Michael Cincinnati. Yes, is he doing better? Hopefully he'll be back next week. That's what he said. So he said hospital.
So, I just wanted to share that we had a wonderful trip to London, and when I'm traveling, I like to go to old churches and light candles, because in the US, most churches just have battery-operated candles, and it just doesn't feel the same. So, I lit one in remembrance of my brother, and this Friday would have been his 40th birthday. So, that's just something I'm thinking about this week.
I'll share, one of the extended family members, he's in rehab, and we're really, really happy about that. I don't think he has any more chances left. And it's a relief for a lot of people. Just hoping, if you pray or just send good vibes out to him.
May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts.
I have some announcements. Please join us following the service for Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth is what we call the conversation, fellowship, and sharing of food that follows Sunday service. If you would like to help with the future Sweet Tooth, there's a sign-up sheet in the kitchen, or speak to Anita Coddington. Anita Coddington is not present today. She's traveling in Italy and will be back probably next week. Unfortunately, our benefit concert for Doctors Without Borders on April 19th has been canceled. We hope to reschedule the concert with Michael when he's able. UUCCN annual flower and plant sale is on. Please find order forms in the welcome table in the back, or check your email. We work with Borella Nursery, a family-run grower here on Long Island, and the same nursery that supplies the mums for our pumpkin patch. It's a great product, a great fundraiser for UUCCN. Please ask your family and friends to support our congregation through the plant sale. The deadline for orders is April 16th. Call or text John for more information. That's John. The UU Congregation of Freeport is holding an intergenerational art show. Please see weekly emails for the update. The UUCCN Book Club will meet next on April 30th at 8 p.m. on Zoom. The book is Nothing More of This Land by Joseph Lee. Check the weekly update email for the Zoom link. Special event. Reverend Page's office hours are scheduled for Tuesday, May 5th at 2 p.m. Regarding the corridor counts, please refer to the weekly updated April 9th for details. We hope to see you there then. Also, another special event, NYCLU events, immigration events, surveillance and privacy, criminal legal system reform. All details will be listed in the next weekly update, so look for it. Applications now being accepted for LIAC Students Internship Program. The Students Activity Fund makes it possible for Long Island youth and young adults to live their faith and learn valuable skills by interning at nonprofits that focus on social action, advocacy, and social service. For more info, visit LIAC's website or speak with UUCCN member Robin Rivera or Christy Rolicky. One thing that makes UUCCN special is the volunteering of our members, helping with Sunday service, religious education, office work, cleanup, sweet tooth, and the other tasks that are a way to give back to this community, to build relationships, to find purpose. If you would like to help, please speak with me or another board member. That's it for announcements, unless somebody has something to add to announcements. Okay, I covered it all. We'll now do the offering and Thanksgiving. It's time for our offering and Thanksgiving. Thank you for your support of UUCCN. Your pledges, donations, volunteering sustains our congregation as we are 100% dependent upon our members, friends, and guests. Please give today when the ushers pass the collection plate in a minute, or you can use a credit card on our website, uuccn.org. One of our traditions is to share our Sunday collection plate with another organization whose work aligns with our values and principles. For the month of April, we support Covenant House, whose mission is to provide safe housing and holistic care to youth from the ages of 16 to 21 experiencing homelessness and human trafficking. Please help with this important work by giving today. If you're sending a check, please write "Share the Plate April" on the memo line. I want to say thank you again for all you do to support our congregation. We are truly grateful and truly blessed by the generosity of our community. Thank you.
TV's arguing with me about whether or not it should update. I think it's breaking the laws of robotics by not responding to the commands of woman. It's a male problem.
if it doesn't work, I could just put my, can listen to it. Okay, so the TV's got its own problems in mind. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna play the video, and we're gonna be able to listen to it, and if at any time I can transfer it to the TV, the video will come on. Let me do that. And this is an interview between the director of the UUA's organizing strategy with Deepa Iyer, who's the author of Social Change Now, which is this year's common read.
We are going to talk about solidarity, and I am not the expert on that, but Deepa Iyer is. Deepa Iyer is a social justice leader, strategist, and writer. Her book, Social Change Now, is a common read. Lovely t-shirt. So if you haven't heard of her before, I am so happy to introduce her now. And I'm ready to cede the floor and the Zoom pin to the wonderful Deepa Iyer. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm hardly an expert, just moving on the path with each other, learning from each other, and always learn so much from you, and looking forward to our conversation. Hi everyone, my name is Deepa Iyer. I use she, her pronouns. I am an Indian woman from India, and I got shoulder-length black hair, and I'm wearing a gray t-shirt that says Food DC. I live in the DC area. It is a pleasure to be with you all. The UU community is very dear to my heart, and I want to thank everyone who's put this together as well.
Thank you for that. I love the solidarity stances. I think right now, when it seems like there's so much to be done, and feeling like the work that we do sometimes is, you as an individual are just so insufficient, right? It's just so insufficient for the tasks that we are finding ourselves in. Having that clarity of like, okay, do it over and over again and maybe build that capacity, right? And be in a better place next week or in 2 months than I was in the first time practicing it, because now I know it better now.
Yeah, our tech support that we,
right, not just survive. It is hard to do that when we're in constant crisis mode. I think another reason that it is difficult and challenging is because we are often at the mercy of wedge politics, a lot of divide and conquer, right? Where the demonization of certain communities and certain people, or within communities of color, communities being pitted against each other. Those are all external reasons that make it tough to engage in solidarity. Internally, both as individuals and organizations, there are some challenges. So individually, a lot of times people will being pitted against each other. Those are all external reasons that make it tough to engage in solidarity. Internally, both as individuals and organizations, there are some challenges. So individually, a lot of times people will say to me, I don't know how to do solidarity. It's too big of a word. It's too hard. And I often say, think of a time where you've either received or given solidarity. What did it feel like? It's a very human response when people answer that question, and that's really what we're going for. That's really what solidarity is. It can be as simple as, I felt seen when someone asked me how I'm doing in the midst of a really difficult situation in my neighborhood where ICE was on the street, right? So that's one reason people don't step up, because they think that they have to do some big visible action, where solidarity can actually happen in a conversation between two neighbors or two young people in a classroom. Another reason that it doesn't happen is because of our organizations or our movements demanding us to sometimes engage in what others call too, purity politics, where everything has to be perfect, otherwise you can't be in the space, right? And those kinds of barriers and litmus tests prevent us from even trying to engage in solidarity. So those are just some of the internal and external conditions that make it tough for us to practice it.
Yeah, sometimes I think about our universalist theology. Right? That it's like, oh, we all have, inherent dignity, and everyone, deserves a safe place, and we all should be able to thrive, and then things happen, and you're like, but not those people. I didn't mean those people, right? So yeah, it is, especially in these times, I think, difficult to put our values, right, into practice. When you talk about solidarity, you use the term, right, what are the risks we can tolerate, right? I would love for you to describe why you frame it that way more, but also we talk about the risk that we take on by practicing solidarity, and if you can also talk about what is the risk of not practicing solidarity, right? Mm-hmm. What is the cost to opting out?
That's actually a really good question. So the reason that we often use the word risk is because it's kind of a responsibility and a risk, right? That solidarity isn't just about using a hashtag or a slogan, right? Or going to a rally. Those are important things, but true and transformative solidarity should change something, should transform something in ourselves, in our relationship with others, and hopefully in the structures and policies that we're abiding by and living in, right? So in order for transformation to happen, usually I think it requires some level of risk in any sort of transformation, right? Whether it's in a relationship or whether it's to change ourselves, we have to risk something. And it's the same thing when it comes to solidarity practice. And in solidarity practice, the risk can be done in a couple of different ways. It might be a reputational risk that we're taking, that if we stand up for something, we might be branded, right? It could be a professional risk. I think a lot about folks who've stood up for Palestine and Gaza and have lost their jobs, have been detained, have been arrested, have been put in detention centers, right? And the way in which we think about the tolerance for risk is really very personal and very organizational. It's about how far can we go in order to stand up for something that we believe in. But I want to make it clear that it isn't necessarily that we always have to take risks that are so big and so large, right? One example I'll give is in DC when, this was actually a couple of months ago, when ICE was in a particular neighborhood, we got a call from some centers in that neighborhood who said, you know, ICE is in our neighborhood and we want to show solidarity in some way for the community. And they decided to just organize a peace march, literally from, I think it was a school that ICE had tried to go into, from the school to a faith center and back. And it was a quiet, peaceful march. And that's just an example of how even something like that, which happened on the day that that particular school encountered ICE, just made a difference, where people felt like they were seen and that they were valued. And so it really is important to think about our solidarity being expressed in these different ways, small and big. Risk and responsibility are often good things for us to think about as we decide how to engage in solidarity.
Yes, and I think more on the deciding how to engage, right, and risk tolerance. In the last two gatherings that we've had, we've talked about power. And so how should we think about power, right, as it relates to solidarity and risk? What are some things we should consider, should observe, should reflect on?
Yeah, so power is a real outcome of transformative solidarity, because what it can often signify is that we're able to share power, we're able to co-govern in a way that leads us to the types of policies and structural changes that we need. And this means that people, when they're engaging in this, in solidarity practice to build power, will actually center those who are directly affected, will think about when they're messaging how they're talking about the outcome of solidarity, will often build their capacity to deal with any conflicts that emerge. Because power can actually be a way in which solidarity tells us this is how things can look like if we engage in those practices. An example I'll quickly give is the last week of August was the 20th anniversary of Katrina and the aftermath. And one of the ways in which solidarity was practiced, particularly in the South, was through this lens of shared power or co-governance. So what does it mean, for example, to understand when the state has abandoned you, that communities can come together and build a process of collective stewardship of land and water, right? What does that look like? And that idea is really what led organizers in the South for the past 20 years to build various programs, whether it's in Mobile, Alabama, or in New Orleans, to think about this collective stewardship. And in New Orleans in particular, a group of Vietnamese residents engaged in this practice to provide recommendations on what to do with the waterway that went through their neighborhood, right? So that's an example of that kind of, it's not, solidarity isn't just about doing it for the sake of doing it, it's to create something else. So in this case, as you mentioned, shared power over decisions, particularly when the state has abandoned a community.
Thank you for that, and that is an amazing example. I think we focus on solidarity and risk so much that even I was thinking about okay, what power we have and therefore what risk should we take, but the idea of the risk itself is creating the
Yes.
power. Amen. So just
Pave the way, yes.
thank you. And the reality that you're talking about, all these different communities, right, attempting to practice solidarity together. I think it's unfortunate because like when the crisis happens, sometimes the barriers disappear. So you do see the people of all different political persuasions, of all different backgrounds, when there is particularly a like natural or sometimes unnatural disaster coming together to care for one another. They're not asking each other who they voted for, right, or where their money is invested. They're actually just trying to figure out how can we all survive this together. And then we go, look, see, people are good, right? And then, right, the crisis maybe subsides, and then we go back to our corners and find the reasons why we refuse to work with one another, or why we're gonna fight for policy for us and not for others. And so in movement spaces, of course, we talk about, right, generative conflict, right? Not the conflict that tears us apart, but the conflict that can actually bring us together. And so how do we choose when we lean into conflict as a part of solidarity? And when do we actually need to go, okay, we're gonna move a little bit back because we actually can't practice this well in these conditions?
Yeah, I think that, you know, one of the things that often happens with solidarity practice is that there's this assumption that we're all gonna hold hands and be on the same page because we have like the same visions, right? But as we all know, that is rarely true unless you, I think, built relationships over the course of decades and you really trust each other. Conflict is unavoidable, it is inevitable, and it happens in any relationship that seeks to be transformative, that seeks to change and shift, and not be stagnant at the same. And so with movements, we see those kinds of conflicts emerge. The question of whether it's worth it to engage or not is, I think what we've seen is it depends on a couple of different types of considerations. So one is what is most important to the cause, right? Removing the ego from the ecosystem is something I often talk about. So what is important for the ecosystem, not for my ego or my organization's ego, credit and control, right? So that's an important question. So removing ourselves. The second is if working, actually I think Mary in the chat has said this so well, conflict can be productive. Is working through this conflict going to lead us to a deeper understanding of each other, a realignment or recalibration of our values, a different strategy to figure out how to get to the outcome we need, right? So is there going to be a productive piece to this? And then a third is really around accountability and harm. And I think that those words are used a lot, and it's really important to understand what is harm and what is accountability. Sarah Schulman actually has written about this. I know we were talking about her earlier when we were writing to each other about solidarity. But it's really important to think about having agreements, community agreements in place when we enter into relationships with each other as a network or an ecosystem. One of those agreements should be something like, we know conflict is inevitable and this is what we're going to do to deal with it when it happens. And that's something that the group would work out. I always encourage folks to bring in healers into these sorts of spaces where you know conflict will occur, because rather than wait until after it occurs, because healers can help set the container and hold the space, right? So those are all ways in which we can get prepared for conflict to emerge rather than be jarred and shaken up when it comes up.
Oh yes, bring the healer in the room. I really like the is working through this conflict actually going to, I think that is a very rigorous question and can help us avoid some things. It's like, do we want to fight or do we want to fight for something? We have 2 minutes left, so I want to ask this final question of you know, we have UUs, many UUs in the building who are representing congregations. For organizations specifically who want to deepen their practice of solidarity, what are 2 or 3 concrete practices that you are, recommending for us to take up or to consider?
I think I would say one is, and my therapist would be so proud of me for saying this, is to do the inner work. So whether that is individually to understand how bias shows up in ourselves, right? Or as an organization to figure out what are our values around solidarity. That inner work is really important, and it can be messy, as I mentioned. It should be messy, because if it's easy, as you said, Nicole, we wouldn't be here. So give in to the messiness, right? And the imperfection. A second practice is to actually, depending on who we are, what kind of demographic we represent, to actually do learning. So inner work and learning, really important. So whether that is building relationships with other organizations or different communities in our area, whether it is going to events to learn, reading, right? Reading community media. So really understanding what the particular issue is that you might be concerned about, whether it's climate justice, how has that affected different types of communities, understanding the connections and commonalities without flattening them. And then I think the third piece is to start to take some steps and to understand that we always have a chance to redo it, that solidarity is an iterative practice, it's a verb, so I mess up all the time when it comes to solidarity practice. I make mistakes, I say the wrong thing, I don't say anything when I should, and it's important to understand that the point is to keep trying and keep doing it and listen and learn, and not to just say no more because it's too hard, or I messed up, or I don't know everything. So to take those small action steps over and over and have sort of an internal feedback loop, and hopefully one in which you're having that feedback loop in community with others, because the community grounded aspect is key when it comes to solidarity too.
Thank you. Yes, we can always come back to our solidarity practice. And luckily, we have these tools that you shared with us, because I know on Side with Love, are always coming back to those as well as we are trying to figure our way through this moment. Thank you so much. It is always wonderful to be in conversation with you, and deep gratitude for the work that you are doing.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much.
Rise in body, word, and spirit for our closing hymn, number 30, Over My Head. my closing words, I would just like to let you know that while I thought that conversation was very interesting, the book is a lot simpler than that, and I was surprised. But what I liked about the book was it's a very baseline for how does activism happen. And this conversation that we just listened to was how do we put those ideas into practice. And the one that I really took away, and I'm going to challenge you all to think about this today and throughout the week and come up to me and speak to if you have any ideas. The idea that conflict is inevitable, and we should think about how we're going to deal with it before we start. Like, what would that mean in your home, at your work, at UUCCN, to think about when we disagree, what are we going to do about it ahead of time? I think that that's a really powerful idea that can help people meet their goals and love each other a lot easier. And so we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of commitment, or the fire of community. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Yeah.